Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. I just got done watching Dr. Sleep, both theatrical and director's cut. I want to give a big shout out to Odin's Movie Blog. He was the one that got me the 4K Blu-ray or the 4K Blu-ray from a giveaway on his Discord server. So thank you, Odin. The digital code gave both the director's cut and a theatrical cut. Now, for those of you who don't know Dr. Sleep, it's a Stephen King movie. Also, it was a movie that is a sequel to The Shining, which is the one with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Long, I believe her name is. And it was a Stanley Kubrick film. Now, The Shining and Dr. Sleep, in way of storytelling, very different. The Stanley Kubrick was a legend in filmmaking. The dude could tell a story that is something that you really don't want to. It makes you unsettled, especially the music. He will have music ramping up to make you think something's about to happen, and just when it's at its height, you think something's about to happen, then nothing happens. But then out of nowhere, boom, something hits you, and you jump. When I first saw The Shining in its entirety, I jumped like hell, and when I saw it in its entirety, it was 3-4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, maybe. I think it was actually into early January. So 8 weeks ago. We'll go there. But yeah, I saw that movie. I jumped out of my skin a couple times. And it's like, whew. I mean, that movie was well done, in my opinion. Very well done. Now, takes place, the Dr. Sleep movie takes place in the 80s, or 1980, during the timing, or just directly after the events of The Shining. Now, it shows some of the stuff they did a shot for shot with a couple scenes from The Shining, or one scene in particular where it's little Danny Torrance riding his big wheel through the lobby or through the hallways of the Overlook Hotel. And I thought they did that very well. They didn't get actors or actresses that look stunningly like the cast from the Shining that was 40 years ago. But they did do very good casting. The kid that played little Danny Torrance, he did it very well. The woman who they had play Wendy Torrance, she did very well. I mean, she had what's her name's voice down pat, man. Her actions, her mannerisms, all of it was well done. Now, but then they cut to a girl who shines, who has powers, who has abilities, like little Danny Torrance, basically psychic and whatnot. And she sees this woman that they call the True Knot, and whatnot. So they feed on people who shine. They feed on their shine, so to speak. And as she lures this girl in, doing little magic tricks and whatnot, she then holds on to her as everybody else her little True Knot gang starts feeding on her. And then Danny Torrance wakes up in his bed, having to go to the bathroom really bad, but then he sees the naked lady from The Shining, the dead naked lady who was all ugly and whatnot, from the bathtub from 327 in his bathtub. And he pees himself because he's afraid, or he doesn't know how to handle these, or the Overlook's dead occupants trying to go after him. Because, like Dick Halloran explains to him, Dick Halloran is the black guy from The Shining. He explains to him, he's like, you were like a 1,000,000-watt battery going into that show or into that hotel. And it's no wonder they weren't or it's no wonder they were drawn to you so strongly. And then he teaches him a technique to keep those ghosts from harming him. He teaches him to create a mental box that can basically imprison the occupants of the Overlook Hotel, the twin girls, the lobbyman or the bartender, and all of them. He imprisons them all. And he then grows up later on into Ewan McGregor, and he's getting drunk. He's beating the shit out of people. He's sunk low because of all this shit that he went through. He's traumatized. He hasn't gotten past it. And it's a really interesting story that they tell, because then they also cue to another character named Abra. It's a girl who's psychic, but she is like the most powerful psychic out there, even though she is only a kid. And you also see the True Knot feeding on other people, and they call it steam, but it's basically psychic essence, so to speak. And they kill kids. Fear and pain purifies the steam, so to speak, or the shine. And they got that kid that played in frickin' The Predator and a couple other movies or he played a kid that is like a mind reader that can shine and whatnot. They also have another girl who they call is a pusher. How you doing, Junebug? Disney great again, hiring Junebug films. I will definitely check that out. But yeah, then they have, or this pusher girl basically is getting a bunch of old online stalker perverts to meet up with her. She's 15, and she then makes them fall asleep, cuts 2 marks into their cheek, and she then tells or plants mental suggestion in their heads. She robs them blind, then runs off. Well, the True Knot gang found her and then converted her. And then they get the kid that I just mentioned previous. They start feeding on him and killing him on screen. That actually made me squirm a little bit. And it was really, really, I mean, I was very uncomfortable watching that. And usually if a movie makes me uncomfortable, in a way, they're doing something right. Now, I'm not saying what the action that they are doing is right. I am saying that the movie was done right because it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. And I like that the casting was well done. I mean, they had Cliff Curtis in this movie, and Cliff Curtis was awesome. Why was this called Dr. Sleep? Because I haven't read the book, but one of the people who Danny Torrance helps when he gets on when he starts getting back up on, or when he starts picking his life up again, basically making it better, improving his life. He's working as an orderly, but he also talks with people who are basically on their way out, who have gotten old and are about to die. And he uses his gift to help them transition into death. Hold on one moment, folks. Anywho, as I was saying, he basically helps them transition into death, and he is basically makes it smooth, makes them so they're not afraid, tells them stuff that he knows about their past because of his psychic abilities. The one thing I liked about it is it fell as Dario Argento directed it, a sequel to The Shining. Yeah. I mean, that is one way of looking at it. So yeah, that's why they call him Dr. Sleep. Basically, the girl Abra, when she is like 5 years old, she starts reaching out and writes on the chalkboard that is in Danny Torrance's apartment. And he said, she's like, hello. And he's like, hi. So she then, as a kid, or as a 5-year-old, because they go through time periods. And the one thing I liked about the director's cut is during each major segment change, they do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. And it was pretty well done. I mean, the kid that plays Abra, she does this in such, or the way that she reacts to the psychic emanations that she feels is very, you kind of feel that she actually might have that kind of gift. And you're very welcome, Happy. That's what I do like to do during my live streams. And when the True Knot Gang is feeding on the kid from the baseball, the kid from the Predator movie from 2018, she can feel all of his pain. She could feel his terror. She could feel it all, because she can literally peek into what's these psychic emanations. Like I said, she's raw power, which is actually what Rose the Hat, who is the leader of the True Knot Gang, the main antagonist in this film, she notices that the girl was peeking in, but she knows that she's very powerful. And so later on, the girl tries looking for them again because she feels bad about the kid. She wants to help the parents find their closure. You have my permission to do a live reaction video after you watch Make Disney Great Again. Thanks, man. And so she's trying to peek back into Rosie's hat, or Rose the Hat's mind, and Rose is psychic, so she could feel it back. And so she reaches back, she finally connects with her, touches the back of her head and whatnot, and the girl immediately flinches back, saying, "Get out of my head, get out of my head," and shatters the freezer window in the store, and then shoving this woman back, Rose the Hat, shoves her backward, and then she yells again, "Get out of my head," and Rose gets shoved backward to slide backward on the floor. And she's shocked because of the ease this child pushed her out. Now, I heard during the early marketing for Dr. Sleep that this was going to be a little bit of wokeness and whatnot, and it's like, I'm not seeing it. I did not see any SJW nonsense in this movie. Literally none. So whoever, or the people that were trying to push that this movie was SJW, it was stupid. You were stupid to do that, because this movie gave off none of it. Like, literally none. And there's going to be some people who might have seen it who says that Snake Bite Andy, the girl that can push people to do things, saying fucking man before she kills Ewan, or tries to kill Ewan McGregor. You got to realize she was abused as a kid. She was abused when she was younger, so she decided to fight back when she realized she could in different ways. What's everyone's favorite Stephen King story? Honestly, my favorite Stephen King story is the story that inspired Silver Bullet, the movie with the werewolf, with Gary Busey. I mean, that was Gary Busey's best freaking work ever, in my opinion, because he was allowed to improvise all of his lines, literally, and he did it fucking magnificently. But going back to the story, so she realized that this kid is raw talent or raw power. They don't want to turn her into one of the Knot, but they don't want to kill her either. They want to try to milk her as long as they can because of how powerful she is. And her friend, the Crow, won't, or is very hesitant on this. Rose the Hat's friend, Crow. The only thing that I know is that the character in the book, Abra, was white and they changed her ethnicity. They didn't go, look at me, I'm black and gay. That's great. Thing is, if they change that, People who didn't pay or don't know the book, that's fine. But they didn't make a whole habit of I'm black or this or that. So they race swapped. Okay, so maybe that was the thing that pissed people off. I didn't notice because I never read the book. I'm going to have to try reading the book sometime down the line, but I definitely will look into it. But if they race swapped her, I honestly had no problem that she did it because she played the character well, the character that they made her into. The father, or so after Abra goes looking for Danny because she finally senses him and whatnot, and she finally has a name, she actually tracks him down. And one of the things I really like is that they actually cover this. It's like, you tracked me down? I mean, I don't know where you're from, but it's kind of inappropriate for a 13-year-old girl to track or to be sitting on a park bench with a grown man. And she's like, I'm Abra Stone. If anybody asks, you're my Uncle Dan. And it's just fucking hilarious. There, now you know me. And I just absolutely love how they handled that. Now, she obviously is a young kid, excited that she has this ability, and she wants to use it for good. She's psyched at this concept of being able to do things for good with her power instead of having to hide it away. But Danny is scared of it, or is scared to jump back into using it again. So he tells her, hide it. Don't use it. These people are dangerous. They'll come for you. Hold on. Anywho, and well, obviously she's not really going to do that. But so then Dick Halloran comes back to visit Danny one last time and says, you got to help her. They know of her and they are going to kill her. And he's like, why me? Because she found you, Danny. And so he helps her. He uses his friend, who's played by Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis does wonderful jobs. In every role I've seen him in, he has done a great job. He did a great job in The Meg. He did a great job in this movie. He did a great job in Collateral Damage when I saw him in that movie. He does a great job in every freaking movie. Cliff Curtis is one actor who is sorely underappreciated, and I think that a lot of people should look into him and actually support that man because he does a wonderful job in acting. So yeah, I think he's also from New Zealand, so he's a great New Zealand actor, man. He also played in Hobbs and Shaw too, if I remember. Yep, Hobbs and Shaw. He was also in that. I want to see a Shiner fight a Jedi. Thing is, if it's the right kind, or they kind of use Force abilities in this movie. He is an underrated actor indeed. He's underrated and underappreciated. Cliff Curtis is a wonderful actor, and he does a great job in a lot of the stuff he does. He kills his roles, and kill in a good way. But anyway, so they find the kid that the Knot gang, or the True Knot gang, fed on, grabbed his glove, and so now Ewan's on his way to Abra. And he's like, you have to tell your parents. You have to show them before I get there. Well, she's like, she's afraid because her parents don't look at her, they don't acknowledge her and whatnot whenever she uses it, unless her parents ask her to use it. Her mom likes to ask her to use it to find little things and whatnot. But anyway, if a father heard that his little girl was being talked to by an adult and whatnot, well, he reacted in the way that any normal adult parent would. So when Danny Torrance and Cliff Curtis's character show up, he's like, "Your Uncle Dan, huh? The fuck is wrong with you? She is 13 years old." He puts him up the car. And Danny's like, "Show him," before he beats the hell out of me, you know? So she finally shows him a little bit and gets to his mind. Now, in the theatrical release, that is when or they're outside when the father is shown all the stuff that happened to that boy that she knows of. And then they go inside and he's drinking, and Cliff Curtis didn't have any dialogue in that scene. But in the director's cut, she shows him a little bit of the stuff outside to let her father know, yes, Daddy, I can do a lot more than what you know of. And so Cliff is saying, it's true. What she is describing, I've seen the boy in that grave. She is telling the truth. And the father's still hesitant, whatnot, saying, well, he could have put him in there and whatnot, blaming Danny because he still thinks Danny's a pervert. So then Abra goes up to her father, puts her hand to his temple like this and shows him everything, and then he just starts slogging down alcohol. I mean, how would you react if you just saw a young boy being murdered in your mind, you know, in the most horrific fashion and semi-mythical or mystical way? Maybe get Cliff Curtis as Tommy Jarvis. I could see people complaining in the fact that his skin's darker than most. Tommy Jarvis is, or the most Tommy Jarvis is, but it would be a leading role for him in a horror film. I don't know who Tommy Jarvis is, to be 100% honest. But anyway, so if you could fill me in the chat, Junebug, that would be awesome. But so then they basically have the plan to trap the True Knot gang. Now, Rosie isn't going, and her friend, the Crow, I can't remember the first name he uses, but anyway, in the movie, she has, or before all of this happens, I did kind of just skip ahead, but basically to give you an idea of how strong this girl is, she literally set a trap for Rosie, the leader of the True Knot gang. And Rosie's looking for her. In the movie, in the theatrical cut, she finds her just by looking up the long way. But in the director's cut, her friend, the Crow, gives her Tommy Jarvis, Corey Feldman's character in Friday the 13th. Interesting. That would be interesting. I mean, Cliff Curtis is up in his 50s, I believe. Alexa, how old is Cliff Curtis?
Cliff Curtis is 51 years old.
51 years old.
He was born on July 27, 1968.
Anyway, yeah, he's 51 years old, so I don't know. Maybe they could spin it. But anywho, she finds him because the Crow guy was looking for, or found an article about one street in New Hampshire that had an earthquake, just the street itself. Because when Rose the Hat jumped into this, or tried to invade the girl and look back into her, when she said, "Get out of my head, get out of my head," she sent out such a psychic emanation that shook the whole street and every house on it. So somebody wrote an article about it, and so she's like, "Well, now we have a street, so we'll definitely knock it down to where I could see it." Well, if you do the math, Tommy Jarvis was probably born about 1971. Fans would probably want Corey Feldman back. Yeah, sure, they probably would. But yeah, as I was saying, so now she's looking for her, finds her in the room, sees that she's sleeping, but it's different from what her real room looks like a little bit. This girl literally sets a trap for her, puts a whole searchlight, shoves her, or closes her hand like this in a file cabinet, because Rose the Hat was looking in a file cabinet and whatnot. And then she does the most creepy thing. Has like a purple wig, and her face has no eyes, but it's just flesh colored over the eyes and whatnot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so creepy, you know? And so she then jumps into Rose's mind, starts looking through her memories and whatnot. And so Rose realizes the danger of that and literally rips her hand out of the filing cabinet, crippling her hand. And then has to back up like there's 2-ton weights on her freaking feet. And then she jumps out and retreats, and she gets launched off of her freaking camper because she was up on top of her camper to do her little astral projection shit. And she literally flies back into her body, and her body is then launched off the camper. And then it just goes there. It really picks up slowly, the pacing. I mean, the pacing is well done in my opinion. Subjectively, the pacing is done well. Now, other people would think it's slow, like the other movie, but it does pick up well. And when it picks up, it picks up. They take some of the gang to go find, or they take the whole gang except for Rosie and the Crow to find the girl. And they set a trap for her then too, but this time Danny Torrance and Cliff Curtis is there. And so they start shooting the gang down dead, except for the girl, Andy, Snakebite Andy, who can push people to do stuff. She manages to make it in the camper that they came in and whatnot. And then they killed everybody, and then they're trying to find her. Well, she gets out, tells Ewan McGregor to stop reloading his gun. Then she has it over him, ready to kill him. But then Cliff Curtis shoots her in the neck. And as she's starting to fade, Ewan McGregor's Danny Torrance is like, "Stay back, Bill." And before she fully fades, she says, "Kill yourself." And sadly, Cliff Curtis blows his head off, or blows his own head off, because of the compulsion. Now, that sucked because, like I said, I like Cliff Curtis as an actor. And it's like, I wish one of his characters would actually live, you know? Or, well, most of his characters do live of all the movies that I've seen. But it's like, I wish this one could have lived because I really liked his character. And it sucks that the good characters have to go, you know? So, anyway, she's like, the Crow's not here. I couldn't see him. Little did they know that the Crow actually went straight to where she lived and popped a needle in her neck full of a tranquilizer and kidnaps her from there. Now, what you don't realize in the theatrical cut is that these people have connections. The True Knot Gang, they've been living for a long, long time, so they have connections, like with the NSA and people and government and whatnot. In the theatrical edition, you don't get that. But yeah, the tranq that they got came from the NSA, one of their tranquilizing agents, I guess. So now Danny is ready to, or goes and sees that the father was stabbed through the heart by the Crow guy, and he then, the kid is getting driven by the Crow to where Rosie is. Rosie literally can feel all of her friends died when they were all getting shot, and she realized it was a trap. And then Abra is realizing she can't reach out to Danny, even though she's trying. So Danny tries something because she can't answer. He turns his mind into a radio, so to speak, and then hears her, contacts her, and whatnot, and then kind of possesses her. So it's like, okay. So Danny can possess people now. Interesting. And causes or uses Abra's ability to turn the car into a tree, killing the Crow guy. And this literally sets off Rose the Hat. So Rose takes all the canisters of steam or shine and just inhales them all and then Danny takes Abra to the Overlook. And he's like, you pay attention, you look that way. If you see her coming, you let me, or you put it on blast and let me know. And she's like, how will I know she's coming? You could see a mile off. You'll see if she's coming or not. And you can't. I don't want you spending any more time in the Overlook as needed. She's like, you're just gonna leave me out here? I have no choice. I have to wake up the Overlook. So Danny goes in, turns on or goes down to the boiler room, cranks the boiler and whatnot, has a meaningful conversation with his dad's ghost, which is part of the hotel now, so it wouldn't have any memories of, or so Jack Torrance wouldn't have any memory of his son, so to speak. But basically the hotel has accumulated Jack Torrance and is using him to try to get to Danny Torrance to take another drink, go nuts. Kind of like what they did with Jack Torrance. Doesn't work. So Rose gets there. They try to use the box method on her. It doesn't work. So he has the axe that his father used on, or rather a similar axe, rather. You actually see the room where Jack Torrance chopped through the door with the axe. They actually use the actress in this movie to redo the whole reaction to him chopping through. They do a lot of homages to the old movie, and it's pretty cool. Now, then Danny unleashes all the Overlook's previous occupants, and it's like, holy shit, man. So they all kill Rosie, and the second Rosie's dead, the twin girls, the naked lady, all the people then look at Danny Torrance, and you hear the girls say, let's play Danny forever and ever. The same freaking voices. Of course, I'm guessing they used the previous audio from Shining to do it. But the girls who played the twins, they look very much like the original twins some 4 years ago. I mean, not perfectly like them, but pretty damn close, So they all kind of possess Danny. So Danny kind of goes on a whole Jack Nicholson chase with Abra, not through the maze, but through but finds her in 237, and the old lady in the bathtub looks in at Abra, and Abra just looks at her. Try it. Basically, that gets the old lady to back off, even though you don't really see her back off. But she then gets Danny to fight through it. He's like, we have to go. And she doesn't want to leave him because I wouldn't want to either. But he's like, somebody has to close the door behind us. Let's go. It'd be really cool if they got Elliot from E.T. to play Jack Torrance. Yeah. I actually thought that, or when I saw the E.T. sequel commercial that they had for Amazon, I think it was, that was the actor who played Elliot to do that little E.T. sequel. That was pretty cool. Anyway, so he goes out to the boiler room because the hotel repossessed him to try to turn off the boiler, but he fights it to the point where he regains control, and he's holding all of them in. He gets down on his knees as the whole place starts going up in flames, and then you see his mother put her hand on his cheek, and then you see him as a kid again and whatnot. Basically, he went full circle, and he destroys the Overlook. The Overlook is dead, purified, and whatnot. So it then goes to Abra kind of doing a little narration, saying, I knew you were okay and whatnot. Oh, really? I did not know that. Huh. I'll have to check that out. That would be interesting. I will definitely check that out, Junebug. But yeah. Ewan McGregor's Danny Torrance is dead, and he's visiting Abra in her room, saying, I know I told you to not use it, but I'm telling you now, shine on, Abra Stone, shine on. He's basically passing the torch. It's passing the torch, so to speak. And I thought that was a beautiful ending. I mean, the movie is very good. The theatrical is 2 hours 6 or 32 minutes, at almost the same amount of time as the original The Shining movie, but the director's cut is 3 hours long. It has it extends some sequences, changes a little bit here and there, like the one where her father finally meets up with Danny Torrance and whatnot. Yeah, overall the movie is great. It was well done. The extended edition actually didn't cause any problems. It only enhanced the movie, in my opinion. So objectively, these are now the objective score. I will give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. It was very well done. I liked it. The score was great. The acting was great. The casting, the cinematography, they did a wonderful job in this movie. The subjective score, I will give it a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, a little, but that's because my own personal squeamishness. I can't give it a perfect score, really. But all in all, it is a wonderful movie. Moviegoer, if you like horror movies or if you like thrillers and whatnot, this is definitely a movie for you, so I will give it a 5 out of 5 moviegoer. Anyway, folks, that is the video. And this isn't going to be a super long one. This is we're going almost into 37 minutes now. But yeah, folks, y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of The Shining and Dr. Sleep, if you have seen it. Tell me if you have ever seen the director's cut of Dr. Sleep. Anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. And before I kick off, I'm going to read this last one from Junebug. Stanley Kubrick's #1 choice to play Jack Torrance was Robin Williams. You are absolutely right. I do recall that. I actually saw the special features on The Shining, and he actually said that. Yep. Anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Catch y'all on the next one. And